Hello! In this Unity tutorial, you will learn how to make a nice simple player movement script which will move a character that you create using the WASD keys, and it can jump with the spacebar. Let's begin. First thing, we need to go into our Edit Project Settings area, Input Manager, and to use a jump reference we need to set up a jump keybind, so set that to our spacebar by default. We'll be using this in the script so we can jump. Now we need to create the player itself that the script will be using. So let's create an empty game object to store all of this. So let's name it player. And we need to see the player, or the player needs something to control. So let's add onto our player game object, once we set up its transform, a 3D capsule. The capsule we can add the camera as well to. Child the camera to the capsule, capsule to the player, and I'm just setting the camera up to where the player's eyes would be. That is pretty much all. Now let's add a script. Let's just call it player. It's pretty much the player itself in Unity. So let's go and edit our script. We won't be needing the void start or update functions right now. We will use them a lot though. Alright, first things first, we need to use a character controller. So let's make it so that when you add the script, it will add a character controller with it. For convenience purposes, mainly. Require a component, the type of component. So let's say type of component. This is going to be our character controller. That is all. Now we need to set up some public floats so you can enter information in the editor, which will modify values of the player movement. So let's create a public float. This is called speed. This is a player speed movement, and let's set this by default to 0f, which is our float value. We can modify these in the editor. The next float name is our jumping speed, so this is the speed change when we jump. All of these will be 0 by default. We're going to do here, and we need another public float. This will be our gravity, so we can apply gravity to the player, and that is 0f, and we have an error on the other jump speed. So no, there we go. Okay, another public object. This is the camera. So this is our public camera, and let's call this the player camera, and this is what we will reference as the camera. We need a public float once again. Float. This will be our looking speed, so how fast the camera will move. Let's call this a 0f so we can modify these values later on. Let's make a public float for the X limit because we want to limit the X view on the player. This is also not required, but every game has this. That is our values. We are referencing character controller here. We're now going to set up our direction and our rotation. Alright, there we go. Oh, we got an error here. Oops. Alright. Next thing we are going to do is we're going to create, this is a boolean which will allow you to disable or enable the player movement. So let's call this can move with capital M, yes. And this, let's set this to true by default so the player can move. Now we need a start function, and this start function will be using the character controller. We need to rotate the player on the right axis. So let's transform the y axis. Euler angles, y axis. Now we need a void update. And this is where, if you are grounded, so on the ground, he is grounded, and this will be allowing your movement. And there is your speed. Now we need to do rotation as well. Copy paste this because it saves time, a lot of it. And just put right in place of forward. There. Now we need to find the cursor speed, the cursor movement on your screen. Let's start with the Y axis, and can move is enabled. Copy and paste this. What's happening here is we are retrieving the vertical and horizontal axis, and that is not an iAnimation clip source, that is just input.get axis. Okay, copy this top, put it down, and instead of Y, cursor speed X on top, vertical on bottom, we need Y and horizontal. Now we need our move direction, forward move direction. We also now need our X and Y cursor speed. And there we go. This is where you jump. So if you input get button, not get button down, this is our space bar. spacebar in Unity. So the jump keybind. And if you press this button, and if can move is enabled, then we will apply a force upward. Now we need to move the character using time.delta time. Our gravity is multiplied by time, delta time, 2 times in this script. We need our Y, move direction. Now we need to reference character controller. And this is our move direction. Now we need to reference our character controller move direction. This is multiplied by time delta time. If we can move, which this should be enabled, then rotate on our y-axis. Using our input, using our mouse input. Now we will do the same using our Y mouse input. These are both also customizable values inside of the Unity Input Manager. This is our X-axis limit for our camera. And now, rotation hooked up for camera. I believe we are done. Congratulations, you have just made your character controller script. Now let's try it out in our Unity project. You will have to remove and re-add the script as it will go with the character controller. Now let's drag our camera into it. And I will set the speed to 7, jump speed to 7.5. You can set these values to anything. The gravity should be about 20 normally. And I prefer a look speed, which is the mouse sensitivity, of 2.5. You can move, and the limit should be about around 50, so I'll do a value. Okay, we can move using WSD. And I bet I know what the issue is. Of course, in our Edit tab, we are going to have to go back into Input Manager. And really quickly, we shall assign our mouse X and mouse Y by just removing that space in between them. Just like that. Alright, now we have a fully functional player controller script. Thank you so much for watching. I hope your project is going well, And subscribing is one button if you have an account. It's not that hard. And doing so will make me very happy. So, do whatever you want, but subscribe if you can. It's very helpful.